Okay.
Okay. So call the meeting to order at 7:09. We have Mark Berry, myself, Marie Shaw, Dan Stowe, Clarence Casper, and Todd. Oi, been a long day. Yep, Todd, good you. Yep. So the minutes from the last meeting, which I believe was in May or June, they've been misplaced on my computer. I just need to find them, and I will do that. So we will start with citizens' petitions and comments. And if we have any.
I got well, actually, the town manager got a phone call from the residents near hole number 14
Okay.
About some flooding into their yard. They did send me a video late this afternoon. I intend to talk to the town engineer to see what we can do. The water was going around and through the wall that separates the golf course from their property.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it's washed out part of their backyard. So we're going to take a look at that to figure out what we can do.
Okay. Yeah, that was a lot of rain the other day.
Yeah, the video was quite striking.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Oh. So then the next would be new correspondence communication. So any updates from the men's or women's clubs?
I have from the women, but
Okay.
okay, just a quick report that we had a full schedule of major tournaments, including Ladies' Day and other events this season. And I want to really give our appreciation for the support given by all the Shinnecock staff, particularly Todd, Eric, and Tim. They really made the events to be very successful from their end. And we have our closing day on September 30th, which will be an ABCD scramble, and then the awards banquet at Par 4 following that. Rain or shine, the banquet awards. And then thirdly, we'd like to show appreciation for the work that was done this spring, early summer on the holes round 3, 4, and 6, and especially we like that tee box on number 2. It's great. And then we ended with 57 members this year, gained 2 since the last time I reported. And a couple of suggestions from a few of the members. One was, and I think it was precipitated by the heat, but there's no drinkable water on the course until cart service comes out, and that's usually by the time we're finishing up our Tuesdays, Ladies' Day. So questions they asked, could the pro shop sell water, drink, bottled water?
Hey, Todd. Sorry.
That's
right.
Okay. So can I be heard?
Yeah, if I put you on speaker.
Okay, all right, so I can bounce back and forth then, because I'm in the meeting and I see everybody.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, I'll put it on speaker right now. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's all right. Just a few suggestions. One is to sell bottled water, but on the course or in the pro shop, basically in the pro shop, have a water dispenser. Just something that women, or well, players, I should say, can purchase water if they forget to bring their own. Second one was there's a wooden walking, I'm going to call it bridge kind of lightly between holes.
Okay, Mark, I can't hear anybody, so I don't know. I'll call you if they want a question or something answered.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, there's a small little wooden walkway or bridge between holes 8 and 9. And that is really in poor repair and almost dangerous if it's wet and slippery. So just to look at that was I was asked to please make comment about it. So a suggestion I think was made last spring, maybe by Dan, if I'm correct, that walkers have a small container of sand to fill in their divots.
No,
That came from the women, a woman as well. And then the fourth one was
back Tuesday.
here,
Yeah.
that on hole number 16, we appreciate when the brush is cut in front of the green tees, but there's some rather strange bushes there. If they're not really necessary, you could lop those off too. So that's my report. Thank you. And I'll put this in the minutes.
Marie, I'm sorry,
Marie,
where
did you-
was that? I didn't hear
Yeah,
it.
in
Say
front
again?
of 16T.
16th hole, the green tees, there's environmental.
Right.
And while we understand that needs to stay there, but there's some rather odd bushes that get in the way. So I was asked by a couple ladies if they could be cut down a little bit more.
We could make a plan.
But Clarence, would you mind going on mute for the moment?
Well, we
Oh,
are.
I'm sorry.
We are going.
So
we are
Jason,
going-
where's my audio? Bear with me because I've never,
Thank you. Okay.
Marie, just to give you an update, we had ordered a bottle filling station to go at the entrance to Part 4. And it was delivered earlier this summer. We were waiting for Public Works to install it. They went to install it and found that it interfered with the heater that's by the entrance just outside of the pro shop. So they have to order another one. But that should address the water available, and it saves on plastic bottles.
That's a great idea.
Yes. Yeah. So it sat there all summer. We were subject to the Public Works schedule, and when they finally went to put it in, it was a side-by-side unit, and it wouldn't quite fit with the heating unit there. So
But we'll look forward to having it when
when it gets nice and cool out, yeah.
Right.
Okay. And then perhaps there's going to be a way for people to be able to get from the 9th hole up to fill those bottles at the turn. Probably something to think about, because that's about when people might want to refill their bottles. One bottle of water won't last an entire round, I don't think.
Right,
Unless
and the plans for the bathroom include a bottle filling station there also.
Okay. Perfect. Excellent. Thank you, Marie. Dan, anything as an update from the men's club?
I will tell you the feedback I get from the men's club is all in regards to major items rather than somewhat less impactful items, for lack of a better way to put it. The bridge between 8 and 9, for example, Marie, I agree that bridge is starting to fall apart, but what I understand is I believe one of the men's club members actually built that out of the great goodness of his heart. And I think if people are afraid to walk over that bridge, they just got to take the long way around. And there is the cart path way around there too. So if people are afraid about slipping and falling, just don't use that bridge anymore. Feedback from the men's club deals more with what are the club's long-term plans around proper course irrigation, proper maintenance, challenges in getting tee times, things of that nature.
And I know that I have been getting a lot of feedback around the tea time issue from people up at the restaurant just hanging out. They can often call in to try and get tea times and the phone will go unanswered for a period of an hour or more. Or it can take, I think I heard my new record the other day, 114 times
Yep.
to get somebody to pick up a phone to try and get a tea time. And then when somebody does pick up a tea time, especially for those people who are typically weekend players, unable to get a time on a weekend morning at all because the tea times have all been taken up. And so concerns about that, I think, is starting to grow within the set of players at the golf course.
Margaret, this is Brad. I would echo that. I've heard the same thing. And I know Todd does his best to squeeze us out even when we can't get a tea time, but I don't think squeezing people out is a long-term solution.
It is not.
Yeah, Brad,
And-
it works great for those of us who kind of are on the inside of the community and know each other. But if say you're a new member this year, right, and you don't know anybody, you're not going to get near the favors done for you. And is that necessarily fair when you're paying the same rate? Probably not, right?
If
Right.
not more. Most of those people are
Yeah.
paying that full rate
Yep.
versus
I
some of
also
these
want-
others.
I
Go
also
ahead.
want, what is the membership cap? I mean, this course is already completely overbooked. It's scary.
Yeah, I mean, have we gone beyond an appropriate season pass holder maximum? And things marked not necessarily to be addressed at this meeting, I think. Now that I'm hearing, we're starting to talk about these, but maybe when we get around to talking about the membership fees and the membership and things along those lines. But this is becoming a real issue with season pass holders and other players at the golf course.
I agree. I hear the same.
Okay,
I will tell you, just as an additional backup on this, when we played the Shenny Norwich, talking to a number of Norwich members, they commented that the reason they joined Norwich instead of Shenny is because they're actually able to get tee times at Norwich. But I still think personally the bigger issue is around, I mean, there's a tournament at Shenectady today, a Connecticut PGA sponsored tournament.
Mhm.
I had numerous text messages from some of our top members playing in this tournament with pictures of atrocious conditions, from fairways to rough to sand traps. And I think it's just, there's the limited irrigation options we have available and the limited landscaping options we have available. The course, it's starting to show its age because it hasn't been given, we did some great work this year with the new bunkers put in, some of the rebuilding done on number 4, for example, that whole part of the course. But it's a lot of other parts of the course that are really starting to show its age because it feels like it needs to be reinvested in a little bit. I mean, I know it'd be a bigger study than we could agree to right here, but you look at what Norwich did with the self-contained irrigation system where they built that pond and now turn that into the irrigation model. They save about $100,000 a year in irrigation because they have irrigation right from their property. There's enough swampy spots on Jenny. You would think you dig some of those out, and you might be able to do some self-irrigation there too. And in the long run, save a lot of money over irrigation there.
Yeah, I know a lot more courses are going that route. Stonington did the thing as well. They put in an irrigation pond, and I know that's working well for them.
Yeah, and with all the towns' climate resiliency discussions and policies and looking at different projects, I mean, this feels like something that could be right up that alley, as you and I have talked about before, Mark.
Yeah, I think we'd have to figure out where that would go and how it would change the layout of the course, and
Mhm.
there's a lot to consider.
No, absolutely, but it'd be nice to start having that conversation.
Sure.
And I think just back to the minor things, Dan, I think brings up the bigger kind of long-term ones is the fact that people are making phone calls to the pro shop and phones are not being answered for hours on end. Whether it is to make tea times or to arrange tournaments or to conduct some other business, I think is also becoming very noticeable to the public.
Agreed.
And it's, I think potentially, where we don't have enough staff, or maybe we need to at key times of the day bring the ranger in, or maybe with the extra funding we have from all these new members, work our way back to two rangers. Maybe one can come in during key times during the day and help support answering phones or doing something along those lines. But it really is becoming very noticeable, unfortunately.
My my understanding is that tea times have been fully booked this summer.
Yeah, so people are getting through.
Yeah, so if, I mean, you could get through. If you can't get through, it probably means there aren't any tea times. But there, my understanding is it's been booked pretty solid all summer. From
Well, I think
first
that's the
to
the
last.
reason for that is twofold. There's too many members, and it becomes a first come, first serve scenario. So if you decide you want to play there and you happen to be hanging out over at par 4, and you can walk into the pro shop and make a tee time right at 4:01 or 5:01, depending on when they're taking tee times, you get precedent over someone who may not be able to be on site because of a family obligation or something else, yet maybe he's been a long-term member, maybe he's an officer in the organization, yet they still can't get a tee time until 3 in the afternoon because there continues just to not be enough preferential treatment for the members.
And
That's-
Clarence, so the other thing is that at 6 o'clock, the online booking opens up. So I would imagine there are a number of people who are to fill out a T sheet are using the online booking to kind of fill those times out. Not all of them go via the phone.
Correct. I would think that would be preferred. To go online.
Yeah, I think
booking.
that would be ideal. I mean, it would certainly make it a little bit more democratic and pull some things out if everybody was forced to set their tea times online.
Yeah, as it is right now, though, when the online tee times open up, I would venture a guess. So they open up Saturday at 6 o'clock, and I'm the first person to log in online. I would guess the first tee time available to me for the following Saturday would be somewhere around 11:30.
Yeah.
And that would be a
Maybe
best
12.
case scenario. It may well be 1 or 2 in the afternoon.
I would say that's true.
Yeah, and for people who are paying full fare, I mean, the ones who are the regular members, either within the town of Groton or outside the town of Groton, I mean, they're the ones who are paying the most amount of money and have the least opportunity to get a chance to play at this point. So we somehow flipped the script here.
Well, part of the problem is that Shawnee's so popular. I mean, the fall
Well,
of
so
tea.
that,
I mean, that's the big problem. You go to some other courses and it's easier to get tea times because they're not sold out.
right, but we have this concept of season passes where people pay up front to play during the year. So the question is not so much do we get rid, I mean, do we have too many of those out and available for people so that it's limited our ability to get tea times? Or, I mean, do we need to do something other than season passes? Because if somebody who's paid, $1,500, $1,600 a year is being turned away on the weekends on a regular basis because they can't get a tea time, in particular in the mornings, which is really when the full members should have some precedence. You know, do we have a problem? I mean, the weekday players can play afternoon for free because it's all part of their contract.
Right.
Right. The weekday players, I mean, the weekend players, while they're paying to be able to play the entire time, most of those folks work, and so really they're limited to being able to play on the weekends only.
And that would be me, Margaret.
And me.
I pay for
And me.
pass, and I, you know, my foursome struggles to get tea times. We played Meadowbrook Saturday because we couldn't get a time for Saturday. So yeah, I would agree. And I cherish my weekends because yes, I do work during the week. It's hard for me to get out during the week.
Mhm. I mean, the other time to be able to play would be a Friday afternoon, but there's tournaments most of the Friday afternoons in the summer, so there's no opportunity to play there either.
Right.
As a weekday player, I'll say I never want to play on a weekend.
There you go. Thank you. No, but that's why you purchased that particular season pass.
Right, and most of my play is in the winter because in the
Mhm.
summer, the group I'm in 2 times a week, we're playing at other courses.
Okay.
So, and I very rarely get a chance to play at Shenny during the summer.
Probably because it's impossible to get a tea time there.
Yep.
Well, we had a GLP group event at Shenny, and I think we had about 8 foursomes, and you know, we were able to do it. So we obviously got some, and that would be on a Monday. And we were able to do it.
Okay. Anything else? Mark, thank you for listening.
Sure.
Oh, Margaret, one other concern. So I have also heard great feedback on the improvements that were made to 4, 6, 3 tee box on. I mean, really fantastic job. The one little blemish there, though, is that area between number 4 and the 5th tee box that is just pure crabgrass. And is there a plan to fix that? Was that an oversight? We just didn't plan for that spot, or?
No, I think that's the area that Eric mentioned that, you know, once we get through this hot weather, they're going to look at reseeding that, to try to get rid of the crabgrass.
Okay, great.
Mhm.
I think that'll be good. Okay. All right. So if nothing else, we'll move on to the golf course report.
I don't know if there are any questions about the last 2 months. But play continues to be robust, but from what I'm hearing, there's too much play.
Yep.
Yeah.
And not enough space for people who, in particular, who've paid for the year.
So we will go to a lottery system.
Yeah.
Well, has there ever been like an analysis done on what the break even point is for the course? In terms of
Break
X amount of
even.
members versus public players, and how many rounds they should between the two need to happen for the course to break even or be profitable?
Well, from the point of the
Yeah.
RTA members that what I see, there could never be that point. They're all complaining. The big complaint among members in the RTM is that the town is still paying for major improvements where they should be paid by the golf course. So that's the people that get the last say on the budget. That's their viewpoint. Or not totally, but there's a lot of people who have that viewpoint in the RTM. So elections are coming up. Make sure you vote.
And I think, you know, what I'm hearing tonight is the golf course is in poor condition. And we need to invest a lot of money. But if we're looking at a break even, that doesn't give us the money to put back into the course. So I think we need to decide what.
No, I'm talking about a break even so that you know where the calculations need to start. So if you know, I don't even know, it's remotely close. So if you need $200,000 a month to operate the course,
Yeah,
then what does that break down into? If you've got 400 members at an average membership price of 1,100 or whatever that is, how many private rounds of golf do we need to have happen every summer? And then you break that down into every week, and that can help you control how much play you get. And maybe instead of separating tee times by 7 minutes, you separate them by 9 minutes. You know, so you just reduce the number of play. But obviously you need to know what that monthly operating cost is first before you can ever do that math.
And it's not specifically to break even, it's to make your target
Yeah.
revenue.
Right.
It's like, what's your target revenue in order to be able to operate that golf course?
Yeah. And it's weather dependent too. And it's
Right.
seasonal.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's a snap.
You
I
could
mean,
at least
you
get
need
a
to sell
ballpark.
so
of it.
many. Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
But yeah, so the question is, I mean, if we've had 3 robust years here, basically since COVID, that means the course has brought in more money than their expenses. So the revenues we keep being told are higher than expenses. That money
right.
is it being reinvested back into the course? I think we asked Eric that question at one point. He said he'd bought some new equipment and he'd done some other things, but I think starting to understand and it's nice to be able to be in that position to be able to have those conversations versus 4 years ago when we went the other way. We were in the hole and wiped out our fund
Right.
balance. So
Right.
you know, we're now kind of free flowing cash. What of that is being turned around and reinvested, or is it all being taken up with paying for insurance and fees?
No,
back to
no. I mean, there is a fund balance now. And during the last budget session, you know, the council and the RTM made it clear that the expectation is that the town is not going to fund projects any longer. So that whatever investments are made in the golf course are going to come from fund balance. Now, you know, there was a discussion earlier in this meeting about irrigation. I think for FYE 26, we have $1.8 million. Or it's over $1 million anyway. I don't remember the exact amount. I don't have it in front of me, but you know, reinvesting in irrigation. Now that million plus would wipe out our entire fund balance that we have right now. And then we would have to start rebuilding that, which would mean years without making investments in other, other areas of the golf course.
I personally think with proper irrigation investment, that takes care of a majority of the problems.
Well, that'd be great, but unfortunately, that's not the only project that is on the books. We continue to replace bunkers because we constantly hear that bunkers are a problem. So, if irrigation was the only project coming up, we'd be all set. But we've got millions of dollars in other projects that need to be invested.
So again, now the nature of the funding and the pricing and everything that we do is now geared toward building enough revenue to be able to pay for some of these projects. So there may be some interesting conversations coming in terms of rates and things along those lines in order to be able to do that. Or making the decision that as is fine. If that's where we're going to, I mean, if we need to increase the revenue by 20% in order to be able to afford doing some of these projects, then there's an interesting discussion to be had.
Yeah, and that could solve the problem of too many players. We price ourselves out of the market.
Or you price yourself into a level market. Depends on what your market is.
Right.
I mean, a full tee sheet, it might be adequate, or a 90% tee sheet might be adequate versus what you got now, which is probably, my guess, around 110, 120% of a tee sheet. Because people aren't able to get their tee times. Or get on the course.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on the July and August revenue reports? If not, we'll move on to the marketing report.
Yeah, we have a new community outreach coordinator who just started a few weeks ago, so we
Good.
do not have a marketing report.
Okay.
I would expect we'll have one for November.
Okay. Again, I see a lot of reposting of Eric's Thursdays and Wednesday postings and things along those lines. So I think that's good. All right, next, the status of the goals and objectives.
Yeah, I don't have a report for that
Okay.
tonight.
Do we have any unfinished business? I don't think we did. Any new business? All right, if not, then our next meeting date is November 6th.
Yes,
And perhaps we put this membership topic on the agenda for that one, Mark.
sure.
What would be the formal process for either a request of the town or of Shenny to invest in a study to understand the feasibility of a self-contained irrigation system? Like if you wanted to get serious and make a proposal to say, hey, let's go ahead and do this. How does that get done? Do you have to make a presentation before this RTM committee, or like what needs to happen there?
Well, I think we need to get a sense of the dollar figure. We probably have to bring somebody in to look
Yep.
at the, look at the, not the course, but below the course,
Yep.
and, try to figure out where those pockets are, and where we can, where we could do this, and again, how that would impact the course, and come up with a dollar figure.
Well, yeah, engineering studies and then kind of estimates
Right.
from there based on what we need. I mean, I know couple of years ago when I was doing the resiliency work with the town and the city of Groton, the forestry department was offering up grants, and so was the state, to be able to do that kind of work. So
Right.
it may be worth, at some point exploring further.
Right. Yeah, and that, those grants could be potentially help fund the project. The first thing is figuring out what the engineering costs would be,
Exactly.
to pay a consultant, and then figure out, okay, so that's not something that was budgeted for this fiscal year. So, it would be moving forward, putting that in to the budget for next fiscal year, to be paid from probably fund balance.
Understood.
And
But
then
so
do the study.
that budget for next fiscal year then goes through your office, Mark, or is there a separate office that has to run those financials?
Yeah, no, it would go, that is part of the department budget. So we'll start working on that in the next couple of months, and it's due to the town manager usually the middle of January. And then it goes to the council and the RTM, and then if approved, and generally it is because the golf course budget doesn't impact taxpayers. So generally we don't have any trouble approving that budget. And so that would take effect July 1 of 2024. And then they could start the study and say, okay, here's where we think the best place to put a retention pond, and the estimated cost, and then you've got the associated irrigation going along with that. I mean, I would have to expect that that would be a fairly expensive project, not necessarily building the pond, but laying out irrigation lines that connect to the pond. Or maybe it's just, or maybe it's just, the line that connects the retention pond to the existing pumping system. So it's just trying to, not necessarily laying all new irrigation, although I think what I was hearing was that there's areas that certainly could use additional irrigation.
I'm sure it's an extremely expensive project, but it's also the
Yeah.
sort of project done correctly pays for itself.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, I mean, and that would be a
costs.
consideration, is, what the payback period would be.
Yeah.
Because, well, depending on the year, and again, I don't have my budget book, but I think we budgeted $30,000 this year for water. So, $1 million project, and I'm just at this point making up numbers. The payback is going to take a while.
Yeah, no, but that's what we want to figure out. And
Right.
then, I mean, but the
Yep.
cost, the other is the offsetting costs of, what's the cost of maintaining, for example, the 16th and 17th fairways, or having to redo them because the irrigation isn't supporting the growth of grass on those fairways.
Right.
Would the town ever consider would they consider it as a real study if you were able to get someone who's going for their doctorate in environmental management to do their thesis on irrigation for Shinnecock? Would the town accept that as viable reason to approve a budget? So you could go to a university and see if there's a
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Potentially. I mean, you'd have to find somebody that,
Yep.
you know, wanted to do that particular project.
I would just jump in and say that there's a lot of unpredictable things that come up in a doctoral study, and might take, might think you can do it in two or 3 years, but it may end up being 7 years. So you may not want to be tied to that. I think that would be very risky in terms of moving the project forward.
Okay. But again, I mean, the resilient, I think the town has a new resiliency person, relatively new,
Yes. Yep.
so maybe worth, just hooking up with them to see what options exist there.
Yeah, and I know Megan wrote
Yeah.
submitted a grant application and got a grant to actually work on a sustainability and resiliency plan for the town.
Mhm.
So and she's a grant writer, so and has connections with or is aware of the different grants that might be out there.
Yep. Okay. Any other thoughts from folks?
I have nothing else, Margaret.
Okay. Dan, Marie,
good.
Clarence?
All set. Thank you.
Cool. All right. So with that, can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
All right.
Meeting adjourned. Cool. Thank you guys very much.
Thanks,
All right.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Have a
Thanks.
Have a
Take
good
care.
week.
Good
Yep.
night.
Night.